Before anything, I must be clear. I am 100% mentally sound. None of what I'm about to tell you is a figment of my imagination, and I'm not going to let any of you make me believe otherwise. For 20 years, I was on the force. I started out as just your everyday rookie cop and climbed the ranks to lead detective through blood, sweat, and a desire to be the best. I am not crazy. What I am, however, is a man who made a mistake. A mistake that has grown to haunt me as the weeks drag on. I should have never gone searching. I should have never let my pride stand in the way of my good sense. A mere 6 months before my retirement, a photograph was brought to my desk. Little Yelkia Nozreve, dressed to the nines for her second-grade school photos. The image portrayed her perfectly, exactly how she was as a person. It's an image that, no matter how badly I want to, I'll never forget. She wore a snaggle-toothed smile, and her dirty blonde hair had been curled like that of a pageant star, with a light lavender sundress to tie the look together. Atop her head rested a bright red bow, making her completely picturesque. My partner, Detective plea, tossed the picture down onto my desk before running a hand over where his hair had once been. "We got a sad one today, champ," he sighed sarcastically. I responded with a quick ash of my fading cigarette. "When are they not, plea?" There was something different about this one, though. I could feel it. I could see it painted all over plea's face and body language. CCTV footage picked this little girl up right outside the corner store off Retrack Street. She looked to be wearing her pajamas, and I'm not the biggest expert, but the poor girl looked confused as hell as to where she was. I stared at plea for a moment, pondering, choosing my next words carefully. "Well," I finally managed, "do we have the tape with us? I'm going to need to have a look at that, of course." Plea simply nodded before retrieving the tape from his inner suit pocket. He popped it into the VHS player that I kept in the office for situations just like this, and together we watched the tape. I recognized what he meant by her being confused almost immediately. The way her eyes and head darted around, almost as though she was trying to piece together not only where she was, but how she got there in the first place. The video is time-stamped at 3018 in the morning. That's what made this footage so chilling. No sign of who dropped her off. No sign of a parental guardian. No sign of anything. Just a little girl who just so happened to stumble clumsily into the camera's frame. At approximately 3025, Yelkia very noticeably snapped her head behind her, as though someone had been calling for her. Ever so slowly, she turned around and walked timidly toward the direction of the supposed noise. This was the last anyone had ever seen of her. Her parents were destroyed, and her elementary school even held a vigil for her, begging for her safe return. plea ejected the tape from the player, and the two of us sat together brainstorming our next move. We were going to pay a visit to that store off Retrack Street. We rode together straight there, silent the entire time. Retrack Street is in a less than desirable part of town, far from Yelkia's address, and when we arrived, we found that the place was buzzing with people, which was sure to hinder our work. However, one swift flash of the badge fixed that problem right up, and soon the parking lot fell empty. With the peace and quiet, we were finally able to conduct our research. Well, we would have, if it weren't for the damn store owner pestering us every 5 minutes with questions that we simply didn't have answers to. Is the girl okay? How long will this take? Will you two be here tomorrow? He went on and on, so much so that plea and I had to politely ask to be left alone for a smoke break. Whilst we stood there puffing on our cigarettes, something caught my eye just outside of my peripheral vision. It was a color that stood out against all the others. I tossed the cigarette and stomped it before walking over to the mysterious object that had been stuffed meticulously into the store's downspout. As I neared, I felt knots form in my stomach as the object became ever so clear. I knelt down and heard plea gasp as I pulled a tiny red bow free from the tube. Holy hell, I thought aloud. plea must have been thinking the same thing, because before I knew it, he was right by my side. That's not what I think it is, he added. I think it is, unfortunately. The true gut punch wasn't the bow, however. What made my and my partner's blood turn to ice was the note that had been fastened to the bow with a clothing pin. Do not look for me. It was evident that this was not Yelkia's handwriting, and this single discovery is what pushed the trajectory of my life straight toward demise. Your reply instantly phoned for backup while I analyzed the bow, completely entranced. The next thing I knew, the entire surrounding area was swarming with police presence. There had already been search teams dispatched, but those had been scattered. Some were around the elementary school, some were around her home, and some were right here with us. Now, however, every single search team had flocked to our location, and the entire property was being scouted with magnifying glasses. For hours we looked, hoping for something, anything that would point us in the right direction. Daylight drained quickly, and by the early morning hours, I was the only person who remained. I made the conscious decision that I was going to go home. I needed rest. If Yelkia was alive, and if I was going to be of any help to her, I needed to be sharp. That drive home tormented me. I couldn't get her face out of my head. I couldn't wipe the scenarios from my mind. Before I knew it, I had autopiloted my way home. I glided straight to my bed and collapsed face first into a deep, dreamless sleep. I awoke at 9 a.m. to the sound of knocking on my front door. However, when I checked a peephole, there was no one there. Opening the door, I found that there had been a package left carefully on my welcome mat. This immediately threw up red flags because I hadn't ordered anything since last Christmas. On top of that, the packaging was completely blank, just a scuff-free cardboard box that weighed less than a pound. I felt a sneaking suspicion that this was related to my case and, based on intuition, decided to take the box with me down to my office. I phoned directly to let him know I was on the way, and on the drive there, curiosity ate at my brain like a war prisoner who had finally found his way to a homemade dinner with his family. I had to have been followed. There was no other explanation. I racked my brain trying to remember anything from the drive home the previous night, but all I could recall was my deep thought. I then became paranoid. Paranoid at what could possibly be hidden within the package. Paranoid of what possible state Yelkia could be in at this very moment. And, as if listening to my thoughts like a symbiotic parasite, the box began to faintly tick. This is where my paranoia won. I could no longer risk driving to the office. I pulled my car into a desolate parking garage, free of cars and people, where I then phoned in the bomb squad. I let them know about the package, the case, and filled them in on the ticking that could now be heard from the box. They instructed me to vacate the premises and await their arrival, which I did. 10 minutes later, the entire squad showed up, as discreetly as possible, so as not to create any public concern. I watched as the man in the armored suit approached the package slowly, surely sweating from the nerves and early autumn sun. Very carefully, the man cut the tape from the box and opened the flaps. The silence of the outside world was deafening, and I seemed to only be able to hear my own heartbeat before the man broke the silence with a quick yelp as he jumped back from the box. "It's a finger," he cried out. "Small one, too. Looks like it came with some kind of timer." It felt as though all the oxygen from outside had been snatched away through a vacuum in space and time. My lungs burned, and I felt my face grow beet red. The noise around me faded to static as I watched my colleagues scramble to examine the box. I could do nothing but stand there. It was as though all of my expertise and professionalism had been lost, and I knew deep down in my heart that so had Yelkia. The next couple of hours were a blur. The package had been brought back to the station for fingerprinting and analysis while I remained in my office, contemplating. The ticking of the clock on my wall drove me mad to the point where I had to remove the batteries and continue moping in silence. That poor girl. That poor, poor girl. So many questions were left unanswered, and our only other leads had been taken in for examination. All that remained was the videotape. Mustering up the strength out of my discouragement, I finally found it within me to watch the video one last time, just to search for something, anything, that could hint at where Yelkia had gone. I rewound the tape 4 separate times, scanning the grainy footage ferociously. On the 5th rewatch, I saw him, hidden nearly completely out of frame behind a tree at the forest line, directly behind the store. exactly where Yelkia had cocked her head curiously before disappearing entirely. He beckoned her over with a wave of his hand, barely visible unless you were looking with the intensity of a father who knows what it's like to lose a daughter. What haunted me the most, however, was the fact that that man was me. Same wrinkles, same graying hair, same face. I thought that my eyes deceived me. I thought that my imagination was corrupting my interpretation of the grainy footage. But no. 6 times I rewound the footage to the moment my face came into view, becoming more and more recognizable each time. It was unmistakable. Just at the very moment I rewound for the 7th time, your plea came flying into the office, startling me as I raced to eject the tape. You know, knocking is still a thing people do, I announced, annoyed. Positive match for Yelkia on that finger. I've already let the parents know, and the search teams know that they're looking for a body at this point in time. It's hard to imagine what kind of game this sick fuck must be playing, but it's nothing we aren't prepared for. I rubbed my temples, feeling my mind race at 1,000 miles an hour. This was a predicament that I certainly was not prepared for. On the one hand, if I told your plea what I'd seen, he'd immediately believe me insane, which I am not, and have me arrested until the body was found and more evidence was discovered. I knew I didn't do this, but how could I argue my case? On the other hand, if I didn't say anything and the guys found it on their own, man, there'd really be no coming back from that. Weighing my options made time seem to freeze in place. The ticking from my clock brought me back to reality, and I chose not to let on what I had seen. We're prepared for anything, John, no doubt about that. You find any fingerprints? Not a one, your reply replied, defeated. We'll find her, alive or dead, eventually, I responded, doubtful. Well, let's hope. We have all of our resources dedicated to this girl. I pray for God to align the right stars. I'm praying too, your reply. And with that, John left me alone in my office once more. Alone in silence. And with that silence came more paranoia. I was now willingly withholding critical information from a child abduction and possible murder case just to keep myself safe. The feeling devoured me. Someone was going to find out. Hell, it'd probably be your reply. He's always the one closest to me. Or maybe it'd be Tim Ilkham, the head of forensic analysis. Whoever it might be, I knew it was coming. There was no running from it. Oh, I'd be damned if I didn't try, though. I decided to take the tape home with me. It would be more secure that way, away from sniffing noses and prying eyes. For the next week, I called out sick. Near perfect attendance for 20 straight years. I felt I'd earned that right. During that time, I dove deep. Deep, deep. Day in and day out, I researched Yelkia. Being a mere second grader with a regular middle-class family, I can't say I could find much online for the first few days. I found out who her teachers were, learned that she was born in Einrithilak before her family moved down here to rural Agro-Egg, maybe stalked a few social media pages. I say maybe, but the truth is, that's where the next big break came. And unfortunately for the nose raves, it was more evidence I'd have to keep to myself. As I looked through the pages of Yelkia's distant relatives, a message popped up on my screen. Do not look for me. Immediately I clicked the message, and upon entering the chat, an image was shared. I swear to you, I promise you, I am not crazy. I did not do this, and I am begging you all to believe that. The image revealed Yelkia, huddled in the corner of a dark concrete room. Her pajamas were tattered and torn, her hair matted and dry. But perhaps most heartbreaking of all, she looked to be holding her right hand, crying in pain as blood trickled from the stump where her finger had once been. And there, towering over her, smiling a demonic, unnatural smile directly into the camera with eyes as black as sin, was me, yet again. A new message then popped up below the image. Do not look for us. And that was it. That was the moment reality began to unravel for me. Only briefly, however. All things can be explained, and that was my outlook on this entire situation. Clicking on the account, I found that it had been entirely dedicated to Yelkia. 30 posts so far, and each of them begging for her safe return. All except for one. The post read, "Rest in peace, Yelkia. Heaven has gained an angel," followed by some tacky emojis that I don't care to include. However, what I found interesting about this post is the fact that it had been uploaded 2 hours before news broke of the finger being found. That was damning. But what was I to do? Who was I to turn to when all evidence pointed to me? I decided to take a shot in the dark. I responded to the user. And you know what I said? Where all of my training landed me. A text message that read, "Who is this?" Fucking laughable. Shockingly, the little scene icon popped up beneath my message. I felt my heart begin to tick metronomically as I awaited the reply. Tick. Tock. Tick. Tock. 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 Staring at the screen, I felt only moments pass as my thoughts raced. But as if the universe were mocking me, I heard urgent knocking from my front door. Checking my watch, it was now 1047. Fucking. Hours had gone by. It could not have been possible. I was not fucking losing it. I couldn't be this late into the investigation, not with everything that was at stake. Cautiously and confused, I opened my front door to find your reply. His face told the exact story I had been dreading, and then his words sealed the deal. "Hey boss, have you seen that VHS tape? Some of the boys down at the office wanted to take a second look at it, but we can't find it anywhere. Thought I'd seen you watching it in your office, but when I checked it wasn't there. Also, why did you take those batteries out of the clock? Tell me what's going on, man. Nobody's heard from you, and we're starting to worry." "I'm fine, John, and no, I haven't seen the tape. I'm pretty sure I'm contagious right now, so I'm not sure I'd want to be around me if I were you." I tried shutting the door, but John pushed it back open with force. "One more thing, sorry. We found an interesting social media account. Figured you'd probably want to take a look at it. Why don't you come with me down to the office? We can get this all figured out." "I don't think so," you reply, feeling far too ill at the moment. There was a brief but uncomfortable pause. "We found some fingerprints, man. Look, I just need you to come down to the office with me, okay? Please? Can you just do me this one favor?" I knew exactly what this was code for, and immediately that ticking of my heart came back. "Okay, John, I'll do you this favor. Let me get decent, and I'll meet you in the car." "Thanks, buddy. We're gonna get this all figured out, I promise you." What do you think I did? Do you think I granted him his favor? The back door, it was for me. Knowing what awaited me at that office, I walked with intention. I decided that I'd stick to the woods for complete discretion. As I walked, I thought about many things. Yelkia, my own daughter whom I'd lost. What the inside of a prison cell meant for an officer of the law such as myself. I continued well into the late hours of the night, trotting to the pace of my own beating heart. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what to do, mostly. All I felt the need to do was walk. I eventually found myself approaching civilization again when the bright light post of a corner store parking lot came into view. Worried about being seen, I ducked off behind the trees as I proceeded forward. As the store came further and further into view, I noticed something that made my heart fire up with glee. Little Yelkia Nosreve, standing alone and looking confused. I watched her for a while, thankful that I had finally found her. I had finally done what I set out to do, and here she was, alive and well. As I called out her name, she twisted her neck around to meet my eyes, and I gestured her over with a wave of my hand. Yelkia is safe now. I've decided to keep her until I'm able to make heads or tails of who her abductor was. But until then, I promise to your ply and to anyone else reading this, Yelkia is safe. She will return as happy as she's ever been, but for now, please, do not look for me. I want to start with something small because that's how it always starts. My doormat moved. I have a specific way I leave it slightly angled, left corner flush with the baseboard. Because after Silas, I started doing things like that. Little anchors. Ways of knowing if something had shifted while I wasn't looking. Last Tuesday, I came home from my coffee run and the mat was straight. Not kicked, not bumped. Straightened. The kind of precise that takes intention. I stood in the hallway for a while before I went inside. That was the small thing. Here's the thing that isn't small. I found the woman in the dark coat. Her name is Tarina. I know this because I did what I probably should have done weeks ago. I started asking around. Not about Silas specifically, not at first. Just casual conversations with the two neighbors I've exchanged more than 12 words with. I mentioned I'd seen a woman coming and going from 59. Asked if anyone knew her. The woman in 507 went quiet in a way that told me everything before she said anything. She said Tarina used to live in my apartment. Unit 508, my unit. She moved out about 10 months ago, which is 2 months before I moved in. She didn't give notice. She was just gone one day. Lease broken, deposit forfeited, a few things left behind that management had to clear out. The neighbor said she'd always seemed fine, normal, friendly. And then, toward the end, she'd seemed like someone who hadn't been sleeping. Jumpy. She stopped making eye contact in the elevator. The last time the neighbor saw her, she was loading a single bag into a car that wasn't hers. She didn't say goodbye to anyone. I asked if she knew what happened. The neighbor looked at the floor for a second. Said she always figured it was something with the man across the hall. Said she never had proof. Said she hoped wherever Tarina landed, she was okay. I went back to my apartment and sat with that for a long time. I don't have proof either. I want to be clear about that. I have a moved doormat, a neighbor who knows things he shouldn't, and a woman who fled an apartment that is now mine. None of that is proof. I know how it sounds. But here's what I can't stop thinking about. When Silas mentioned my sister, he smiled. That easy, unbothered smile. Like he was giving me something. Like he wanted me to know that he knew, and he wanted to watch me figure out that he wanted me to know. This isn't about information. He doesn't want to know things about me. He wants me to know that he knows them. There's a difference, and it took me until now to understand it. I went to the building manager yesterday, told him everything. He listened with the expression of a man counting the minutes until a conversation ends. He said he'd look into it. He said Silas had been a tenant for 6 years with no complaints. He said if I felt unsafe, I should call the non-emergency line. I called the non-emergency line. An officer came, took my information, and told me to document everything and call back if anything escalated. She was kind about it. She also couldn't do anything. Last night, I couldn't sleep. Around 1:00 a.m., I got up for water and stopped in my hallway for no reason I can name. Just stopped. And stood there in the dark. And I heard from directly across the hall one slow, deliberate knock on the inside of his door. Not a knock like someone knocking to leave. A knock like someone letting you know they're there. Then, silence. I stood in my hallway for 20 minutes. I didn't hear anything else. I went back to bed and lay there until it got light. I've started looking for a new place. I haven't told anyone in the building. I have not mentioned my sister to Silas. I have never mentioned my sister to anyone in this building. I've been going back through every conversation we've ever had, word by word, and there is no version of events where he could know I have one. Unless he's been somewhere I haven't thought to look. I'll update when I can. Every town has its mysteries, a kind of darkness the citizens would rather keep locked away from outsiders. I am the opposite. I love exposing the inner darkness of everyday life and bringing it to the surface. It is why I joined the local true crime club in my town of Orem. It is called the Enigma Vault. The members gather to talk about favorite crime cases that do not get much media coverage. We also discuss the occasional conspiracy theory and potential cryptid sighting. I guess you could say we are just a bunch of horror-obsessed geeks looking for our next thrill. Some would say what we are doing is messed up, but you need something to make you feel alive when you live in a boring city like this one. At least, I used to think it was boring. There is this strange daycare in Orem called Little Sprouts Academy. It has been here for decades, but nobody remembers seeing anyone enter or leave it. You cannot even hear the sounds of children playing when you walk by. The building is painted a garish shade of green with bright yellow window frames and purple doors. All the windows are covered so you cannot see anything inside. Everything about the place is incredibly sketchy. It is a total enigma that nobody has a read on. One day I chatted with a post office worker to see what he thought, and he said something that stuck with me. He has delivered mail there a few times, and apparently there really are children inside. The weird thing is that it is always nap time whenever he arrives. Mail carriers can have hectic schedules, so he has been at Little Sprouts Academy at several different hours of the day, but the children are always fast asleep no matter what time it is. It does not matter if it is early in the morning or later in the afternoon, those kids are knocked out. Curiosity was making me go crazy with all kinds of different possibilities. What if all those conspiracy theories were true and those children were being experimented on? I talked it over with my club, and they agreed that something was off. Little Sprouts Academy was shaping up to be the perfect topic for our next podcast. Another member and I stood outside the daycare late at night, wearing black clothes and balaclavas. The mission was to break inside and record everything we found. I know. Breaking into a building because of rumors is totally dumb and reckless. Most of the club members are not normal people. We are so bored with our mundane daily lives that we search for adventure wherever we can. Sometimes that means stepping face first into danger. I am obsessed with solving mysteries, so when a huge enigma like this exists in my own city, you bet I'm going to crack the case. Some say Little Sprouts Academy is a human trafficking ring. Others swear it is a secret government base. I did not know what to think, so I went searching for the truth. My partner used a lockpick kit to get us inside while I used my phone's flashlight to navigate. Compared to the outside, the interior was barren and sterile. It was immaculately clean, like a hospital. There were none of the colorful drawings or posters you would expect from a daycare. We walked into what seemed to be an office area. There were tons of these strange files about the children. Each one described their psychic potential and how well they performed on aptitude tests. Students with low potential were disposed of, and some even had mental breakdowns and were moved to other facilities. The students with high potential were called ascended beings and considered prime candidates for the harvest. We were seriously beginning to freak out. The psychic experiment theories were true, but it was far bigger than what we could imagine. Our cameras captured everything. There was proof of it. I then heard a low groan coming from a door to my left. I opened it, and it revealed a long flight of descending stairs. It must have been the basement. A strong wave of a horrendous odor attacked my nostrils. It smelled inhuman. The stench was terrible enough to make bile rise to the back of my throat. Then I heard it. A voice coming from deep within the basement. "Help us. Let us out. Please give us a second chance. We will pass the test this time. I miss my parents." The voice was barely above a whisper, but it sounded like it belonged to a child. We booked it out of there and made an anonymous call to the police. We hid in the shadows at a safe distance as squad cars rolled up to the scene. Officers entered the building, and when they came out, there were no children with them. They just left them there. I know for a fact I heard a child call out to me. Nothing came of that encounter. The police have done nothing to investigate Little Sprouts Academy, no matter how many of us call them. Those bastards must be accomplices or something. The daycare is still up and running like normal. I still think about those children to this day and what exactly is being done to them. I am thinking of going back there soon with the entire club to see if we can rescue them. There is more to this story waiting to be told. Sammy and I were lying in bed one night when he started talking, so Daddy got laid off last week. "Oh," I replied, "that's too bad. Yeah, he can't afford the rent on his apartment. He's not sure what he's going to do. I'm sure he'll find another job soon." "He's not so sure," my husband replied. "Maybe he can move back with your parents." I suggested that, but he says he needs his independence. "So what is he going to do?" "Well, I was kind of hoping he could stay here," my boyfriend said sheepishly. "What?" "You have lots of space, and it would only be for a couple of weeks." I looked around my bedroom. MY bedroom. MY house. The house I worked weekends and holidays for, ate ramen nightly for, skipped vacations for. The place where I could be myself without having to answer to anyone. "I don't know, Sammy. You know I need my own space." "I know, but he really needs help." I sighed. "I'll think about it, but no promises." 3 days later, I came home from work to find Sammy's brother arranging his stuff in my guest room. I dragged Sammy into my bedroom. What the hell? I shouted as I closed the door behind us. What? He replied nervously. You said it was okay. No, I said I would think about it. In what world does that mean to move him in while I'm at work? His landlord kicked him out and he didn't have anywhere else to go. I knew you'd understand. Does it look like I understand? Come on, Billy. Please. He gave me those damn puppy dog eyes. Okay, we'll try it on a short-term basis. But he buys his own food and does his own laundry. I'm not taking care of a grown-ass adult. Absolutely, my boyfriend agreed. I'll make sure he knows. At first it was okay. But slowly, things started to slip. I'd come home from work to find my food gone, dishes in the sink, and dirty clothes on the floor. And Sammy just kept making excuses. Daddy's going through a hard time. He's adjusting. He needs our understanding. Our understanding? I don't see you cleaning up his messes or paying for the food he eats. I'll help more, okay? He really needs this. 2 weeks later, I came home to find a woman on my sofa. Who are you? I asked. I'm Lelia, Daddy's girlfriend. Who are you? I'm Billy. I own this house. Oh, thanks for letting me stay, I guess. I went to Sammy. What the fuck? Who is this woman and why is she in my house? Calm down, Billy. I told Daddy she could stay with us for a while. You told her. Is this your house now? Billy, be reasonable. You don't want to separate them, do you? This is not okay, Sammy. I need privacy, not unwanted roommates. They have nowhere else to go. Then they need to start looking. But 2 weeks later, they were still in my house. Every day I came home, cleaned up, and went to bed angry. One day, Lelia came in while I was cleaning up. Lelia, how did this mess get here? Oh, she giggled. Daddy and I were messing around and decided to heat up some stuff we found in the fridge. By stuff, I assume you mean my food? That am my, I guess so. But it's all our food, right? Did you buy it? Don't be so hung up on money. I fumed. And is there a reason you didn't clean up after yourself? Daddy said you'd do it. Do I look like your maid? She didn't reply, but her face said it all. Okay, good luck, she said, turning and leaving the kitchen. That night, I sat Sammy down to talk. It's time for your brother and evil Barbie to go, I said without preamble. Billy, we've discussed this, they'd without preamble. Billy, we've discussed this. I don't give a crap. They need to leave my house. You want me to tell them that they aren't welcome here? They were never welcome here. You need to fix this, today. He looked stricken. Billy, please. No, I've already been turned into a maid in my own house. Now I'm supposed to be her maid too. I'm done, Sammy. I'm done. Sammy, I'm done. Fine, he sighed resignedly. I'll take care of it. He headed to Daddy's room to talk. The next day, I came home from work to enter my house. My key didn't work. I called Sammy. Sammy, why can't I get into the house? There was a pause. Well, Daddy and Lelia weren't okay with you kicking them out, so they had the locks changed. You let them lock me out of the house I own? Silence. I hung up and called 911. An hour later, 2 officers arrived, knocked on the front door, and explained to Daddy and Lelia that it was illegal to lock out the homeowner. Reluctantly, they stepped aside and let me in. The police explained that if I wanted them gone, I'd have to file for an eviction. Then they left, and I started making plans. 3 days later, Sammy, Daddy, and Lelia awoke, each on their own plastic-covered table. What is this? Demanded Daddy indignantly. Welcome to my storm cellar, I replied. I admit, it's not that visually appealing, but you won't have to see it for long. They shifted their eyes back and forth. Bare walls surrounded them, filled with knives, saws, and other tools. Let us go, you bitch, screamed Lelia. Aw, don't be like that. You wanted to stay here forever. Now you will. And you won't even have to do any cooking or cleaning. It's a win-win. Billy, please, begged my boyfriend. You don't have to do this. I'm sorry, Sammy, I replied, raising the saw. But I did tell you I need my privacy. You really should have listened. As mothers went, they didn't come much prouder than Sarah Morin. It's so good to meet you, Lin Su. Please tell me if I got that wrong. No, Mrs. Morin, that's perfect. Sarah, a tall, well-built blonde woman, pulled the small girl in close. And then she saw her son Sam back from college, finally. and took his handsome face in her hands. My little prince. A winner, she continued, a born winner. Come on, Mom, Sam replied. But there was no real protest in his voice. No, Lin Su answered. My parents are Chinese. They probably wouldn't say they were proud of me until my second Nobel. Sam, have you told her about the Hail Mary at Oak Ridge? The pass of the century. If you won't blow your own horn, I'll blow it for you. Lin Su turned to see if he reacted. He was a little arrogant, but no more than your average 21-year-old frat guy. That deserved at least a mild cringe. And the math Olympiad, she continued. What did they call your solution? Vieta jumping, Mom. Too complicated for us mere mortals. She squeezed Lin Su's leg. Yeah, Lin Su answered. I don't know trigonometry from optometry. That always got to my dad. A dark look passed over Mrs. Morin's face. Sam's so-called dad. We don't talk about him. Lin Su felt like she was stepping on all the grenades. A heads up on the way over would have been nice. Decision-making? Sarah Morin tapped the table. Pandora bracelet jangling. That is what separates winners. And you know, sweetheart, I've met a lot of Sam's girlfriends over the years, and you're my favorite. After dinner, Mrs. Morin brought out an old photo album labeled The Little Prince. And then on to home movies made into a supercut soundtracked by Taylor Swift's Never Grow Up. In truth, Lin Su was feeling a little sand out, and then Mrs. Morin shot up. You've got to see his trophy collection. Sam shrugged his broad quarterback's shoulders as if to say, Mom's gonna mom. But Lin Su couldn't shake the feeling this was extra. He treated the new pledges a little regally, but this? He was like Joffrey and Ralph Lauren. Mrs. Morin almost scooped up Lin Su, moving deeper into the house and then pushing open a final door. The first thing that caught her attention was a shrine. There was no other word for it. There was a black and white photo of Sam, lit with candles, and beneath, a sacrifice of sunflower petals. And then Lin Su paused because her attention was yanked away to a central cabinet where she expected to see all his winners' medals, cups, and ribbons. Instead, she felt the cool press of Mrs. Morin's hands on her shoulders. Then, a squeeze. His trophy collection, she continued softly. On the shelves, beautifully backlit, were numerous locks of hair, assorted pieces of jewelry, and the driving licenses of several young girls, Lin Su recognized from the news. I awoke inside a subway terminal, hooked up to an IV, surrounded by bodies. I yanked at the needle stuck in my wrist. Nothing, only sharp pulling pain. It took 3 attempts, a frustrated cry ripping from my lips. The point slid free, and I sat up, clarity bleeding through fog. My identity came back first, Yuna. 22. I had a boyfriend named Hanno, and... My gaze dropped to my body, to my flat stomach. No. My trembling hands pressed against my belly. Where was my... bump? I already had her name picked out, my baby bag ready by the turnstile. I was so... close. Something feral gritted in my teeth, a low whine slipping from my numb lips. Did I lose her? The thought slammed into me, a wave of ice water threatening to send me spiraling. If I had, was this why? A twisted my head? A twisted my head? A girl's face blurring into view. I jolted back, my body still deconditioned, wrong. The soft, bouncy thing I'd been sleeping against. It was squiz. Skin. Something slimy crawled up my throat. To my right, an unconscious girl, and on my left, a guy. I forced myself up, shakily, stumbling across a makeshift bed. A sea of bodies lay before me. Hundreds of people jammed together, like sardines. Limp arms connected to IVs. Commuters. Every single one of them was sleeping. Phantom memories came back, barely clinging on. I was driving to the emergency room. I remember my boyfriend Hanno in front of me, his panicked voice. Breathe, baby, he whispered. It's okay. Just breathe. Breathe with me, all right? Inhale and exhale. Oh man, I have no idea what I'm doing. That's top. My own voice snapped back at him. Just drive. I blinked back to the present, focusing on the bodies. Hundreds of commuters stripped of their clothes and identities, involuntarily asleep, including me. Scanning each person, my stomach twisted. I checked every face, gently shifting them onto their backs. Was Hanno here? Making my way to the door, I tripped over one, ripping the IV out of a sleeping guy's wrist. Fuck, I panicked when the man's body jerked, his eyes flickering open. He licked his lips, his breath shaky. Hmm? He tried again, blinking rapidly. Wah, the Seth? I tried to smile. What's your name? DuBois? He blinked rapidly. I think? He stretched, cracking his neck, his attention drifting to the bodies. Wait, did you do this? He mumbled, his words slurred. What? I snapped. I woke up here too. My hand went to my belly as a reflex, and I broke apart all over again. I was pregnant, I whispered, choking on the words before I could swallow them. My fingers grazed my skin, as if I could still feel my bump. My baby girl was gone, and my mind was in denial. I swallowed the lump in my throat and tried to push past the tears. Now I'm not. DuBois pulled a face. Well, His narrowed eyes found mine. I don't give a fuck about your issues. He stood up, swaying, eyes briefly rolling back. What I do know is that you're the only one awake. He got close, bumping foreheads with me. What exactly did you do to us? I decided not to entertain his bullshit, despite the venom building on my tongue. What a fucking asshole. I turned away and marched to the exit, and unsurprisingly, he followed. But then I froze. The platform was full of more sleeping bodies. Women. I stepped over each one, my legs threatening to give way. DuBois followed me, stumbling. Hey, DuBois hissed. Don't pretend to be shocked. Whoa. He almost stamped on a blonde's head, jerking back at the last second. You did all of this, didn't you? Holy shit. You lost your baby. So what? You're using us now. That's impossible. I hissed back. He laughed. I hissed back. He laughed. Oh, you would say that. Clearly, you're fucking, using commuters to replace your... I twisted around to scream at him, and something in me unraveled. I didn't just want to scream at him. My hands twitched at my sides, and I realized how easy it would be to wrap them around his slender fucking neck and squeeze all of the breath from his lungs. Instead, I took a deep breath. I'm leaving now. He rolled his eyes, mimicking me. I'm leaving now. I ignored him, stepping outside onto the city street. I was greeted by rows of bodies stretching across the transit plaza and piled in the taxi lane. Everyone, I thought dizzily, everyone was asleep. This is an emergency broadcast. A voice screeched overhead. In a flash ripped through my brain, I saw myself stroking a knife across my pregnant belly. Recorded on 08/60/2025. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention hereby orders all American citizens to sleep. I repeat, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention orders all remaining American citizens to sleep. Consciousness is the mode of transmission. Symptoms include extreme paranoia and indiscriminate anger. Our only means of surviving this is to sleep. The memory was cold, cruel, cutting through me. Hanno's body lay crumpled on the ground, my voice a broken screech. She's inside me, eating me. She's going to eat me up. I won't let her. I could feel my phantom hands, slick and wet with my baby's blood. Hear my guttural, hysterical laughter as I wrapped my umbilical cord around her throat. Hey. I twisted around to find DuBois standing 3 inches from my face. He cocked his head at an unnatural angle, a silver glimmer writhing in his iris. Twisting, something alive. Leaning close, DuBois' breath brushed my ear. You've got something in your eye. Another lonely night. The rain is driving hard, pinging against the sidewalk outside my window. Night 13 of trying to make it through this abysmal excuse for a book, I keep thinking that I'm going to turn a page and my opinion will change, some new plot twist to keep me interested, but it won't. The door to the diner opens. Life turns the page on a plot twist. A woman bundled up against the cold. Our eyes meet for just a second as she shakes the water from her coat. She sits in the corner. I hold my book in front of me, hoping she doesn't notice me looking at her. She pulls out an old, beat-up paperback of Anne of Green Gables. I watch her until the diner is about to close, quietly trying to find the nerve to even say hello. Right before closing, she walks out the door and into the rain. I silently berate myself. I hear the door open again. She's there. "Is that your car outside?" She's talking to me. "My battery died. Could you?" "Sure." I think she's living out of her vehicle. When it's all done, she sits in her driver's seat. "Hey, if you ever make it back this way, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee." "Sure." I watch her drive away into the night. Wow. Another night and another cup of coffee. She didn't come last night. Tonight won't be any different. I'm reading a different book, lost in words that take me somewhere. As I lay dying, I look up. Several strands of her hair hang down in her face. "Hi." She sits down. "Can I ask you something that's going to sound weird? Do you mind if we just sit and read? It's just, sometimes I say the wrong thing, and I'd love to." She hasn't said a word all night. At first, I thought it was a little strange, but with every minute that passed, a calm drifted over me that I had never known. Just two lonely people reading in an old diner in the middle of the night. I'm in a strange and silent spell. The diner closes. We both walk outside. The rain has stopped, but I don't know when. Time doesn't mean anything right now. She thanks me. "For what?" "Just sitting with me." She comes in again around 8 o'clock. "I'm never able to stay in one place too long, but I wanted to see you again." There's a wide, pale scar that runs from the bottom of her neck and disappears somewhere under her shirt. She sits with me all night. She tells me about some bad men who are looking for her, and when I offer to help her, she says no. I'm counting down the nights. She's firm about when she has to be back on the road. I want her to stay. It's the last night. I take her to the Miller Basin. It's quiet this time of year. We lie down on the hood of my car and stare up at the sky. She takes my hand and puts her head on my shoulder. I cradle the cup of coffee. She's gone. It's almost closing time when the door to the diner opens. Two men wearing suits. One of them shows me a picture and asks me if I've seen the woman in it. I say no. I can't sleep. I toss and turn all day. As the sun goes down, I make up my mind. I have to go to her. I have to tell her how I feel. I find her in just under half an hour. Her car is on a back road in the middle of the Oak Haven forest. She's standing in a clearing, talking to herself. I walk up behind her. She's shocked to see me. "How the hell did you find me out here?" It's kind of a long story. We're connected. A pair of headlights shines behind us. Another car pulls up next to hers. "Who is that?" "Probably the two men from the diner last night. They were looking for you." Two car doors open and close. "Don't worry, I'll take care of them." "You need to run away from me." "Please, no, leave. I'm not letting you go." She falls to her knees and screams. I see the full moon beginning to rise above the trees. Her screams change. It all makes so much sense now. The two men run up behind me. I stand between them and her. They both have guns and order me to get out of the way, but I don't. She's almost gone behind me, replaced by something of nightmares. I warn them not to hurt her, or else. I feel a silver bullet pierce my guts. It makes me mad. My eyes go red. They piss themselves when they see my teeth. One of them drops his gun and makes a cross with his fingers. The other empties his gun. I kill both of the men who are hunting her. When I face her, she's staring down with her teeth bared. She's in there somewhere. Both of our dirty little secrets are plain now. I'm sorry I didn't tell you about me. I think we belong together. I hold up my hand for her to take it, but she doesn't. She runs away from me into the night. 4 nights of taking turns between reading a new book and staring out the window. The rain pings off the sidewalk, and I move my eyes back to a fresh bunch of pages. I'm halfway through a new chapter when the door to the diner opens and I feel someone standing over me. She pushes a few strands of hair from her face. My grandfather and father were the only doctors our Appalachian town ever managed to keep. My dad raised me after my mother died when I was 3. He never talked about it much. For 20 years, he served the town until he died right after I left for college. He left me money for college and then for medical school. The town couldn't keep a doctor after that. In the 12 years since I left, they've gone through 9. Never one stayed more than 2 years. It made sense. We were a small town, isolated and poor. Odd to outsiders, perhaps, but that's all I knew growing up. So, after residency, I came home. When I first arrived, you'd have thought I was a war hero. People thanked me with tears in their eyes. More than one grabbed my hand and said, "Your daddy would be so proud." Maybe they were happy to see a familiar face. I found it touching, but I can see how other doctors might find this welcome. Strange. Everyone looked a bit older, but when I look at myself in the mirror, I can see the stress of school and training has aged me twice as much as some. I moved back into my father's old clinic, into the same private apartment upstairs where I'd grown up. The place smelled like mildew, dust, and old paper, like an antique drawer opened for the first time in years. I blamed that smell for the headache I had by the 3rd day. Now, my 2nd week in, the headache has become a steady pressure behind my right eye. My throat hurts, and I'm sweating through my undershirts by noon. There's a dull pain under my ribs on the right side. After settling in, my first house call was to Ms. Loaris' ref shed. The room was dim and airless. Heavy curtains covered the windows. Framed paintings and photographs of women lined the walls. All of them had the same long jaw, the same deep-set eyes, and the same unsmiling mouth. Mothers and grandmothers, I assume. A metal basin sat beside the bed, half full of cloudy vomit. Ms. Loaris lay propped against yellowed pillows. She had a terminal brain tumor. At this point, comfort was treatment. Then the old woman spoke. Dr. Lansu, is that you? Come here, sweetie. Hold my hand." When I did, she began mumbling, so I brought my ear closer to her lips. "Amen." Then louder for me to hear. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you." "I'm going to give you something for the pain," I said as I looked at her pupils. The right was blown wide open. "I'm on the mend, dear. I knew you could." "She's confused," the daughter said. "Has she been feverish?" I asked. "Coughing? Burning when she urinates?" Her daughter shook her head. "I drew blood anyway to be thorough. When I pulled a vial, it was very dark, even for venous blood." My next patient that day was a young boy. Classic strep throat. High fever, sore throat, and exudates. But during the visit, the child's fever dropped. Maybe his fever just broke while I was there. During the visit, he put his hand on my arm while I listened to his lungs and said, "You feel hot." I dismissed it at the time because I was back in the humid summers of the mountains. 3 days ago, I was in the store, and I almost jumped out of my skin at the sight of her, Ms. Loaris. She had no business being in there. "I am feeling so much better, doctor. Thank you for your help." I was dumbfounded. This woman should be dead. I can't remember what I said. Something about getting new scans and a follow-up appointment next week. On my way home, the shadows of the mountains blanketed the road. I started to feel drunk. I noticed the road signs, but I just couldn't read them. This morning, Denulenda came in for a wound check. An old farmer. I remembered him from childhood because he used to bring my father eggs and refuse payment for them. He lifted his shirt before I asked. Below his right ribs was an old, puckered scar. The skin around it was red and tight. "Your daddy kept this from going bad for years," he said. "I'm sorry?" He smiled and said, "He kept it quiet." When I touched the scar, Dini grabbed my wrist. "You got his hands," he said. I pulled away. The wound looked better by the time he left. That sounds impossible, but I know what I saw. The The redness had faded, and he stood straighter as he walked out. Tonight, the dull pain under my ribs became sharp as it split into a raised, puckered line. I couldn't pretend any of this was normal anymore. I came home to treat my hometown. I think they are treating themselves with me. I tore the clinic apart looking for my father's old records. The official charts were still in the file room, at least the ones that hadn't been transferred or destroyed. They were useless. I found the other charts behind the cedar panel in the upstairs hallway. I knew the hiding place because I used it as a child. I kept signed papers and report cards I didn't want my father to see. He must have found the gap after I left and made better use of it. There were 3 ledgers, bound in cracked brown leather. 1 belonged to my father and 2 to my grandfather. I opened my father's ledger. It was organized by symptom, with sections for headache, fever, tremor, memory, and growth. Under each heading were names, dates, and notes in my father's handwriting. I found Ms. Loaris Refshed under the section listed growth. Beside her name, my father had written, "Do not accept. Tumor burden too advanced. Must cast out immediately." Below that, in red pen, there was another line. If accepted accidentally, cast out within a month. I am writing this because I have no idea what he meant, and by my father's clock, I have a little less than 2 weeks. My throat is swollen. The scar under my ribs is warm and tender. My right eye won't focus. I keep vomiting into the trash can beside my desk, and every time I close my eyes, I hear Ms. Loaris whispering. I don't know where my father put the instructions, but there is an address scribbled in the margin. I know the place. Everyone here knows it. It's the old church off Ulaler Enol, the one my father told me never to enter. The church where my father's body was found. I booked the Airbnb because it was cheap. That alone should have tipped me off. I needed a last-minute escape to the Olympic Peninsula. 3 days to reset, get some remote work done, and breathe somewhere quiet. Most places were booked or insanely expensive. Then this one showed up, half the price of anything else. Entire home. Private. No shared spaces. The photos were pretty standard. A small 2-story house tucked in the woods with a clean kitchen. Nothing fancy, but it looked comfortable. The host's name was Neil, but his profile was brand new. No reviews. Another red flag, but I shrugged it off. I needed a place, so I booked. Getting there was a slog, and it was already dark when I finally pulled up. The house matched the photos exactly, standing all by itself, tall trees all around, with just a lonely porch light over the door. I punched in the code Neil sent me and stepped inside. It was dead quiet. Not the cozy kind of quiet you would expect in a cabin, more like the air was pressed down, heavy. I tried to shake it off. The place smelled a little stale, like it hadn't been aired out in a while. But it was spotless. No clutter, no dust. I tossed my bag on the couch and wandered around. Living room, kitchen, bathroom. Everything matched the listing. Then I spotted the stairs leading to the 2nd floor. There was a tiny sign at the bottom. Upstairs is locked. Not included. That wasn't in the listing. I checked my phone. Entire home. No mention of locked rooms. So I messaged Neil. Hey, quick question. The listing says entire home, but there's a sign saying upstairs is locked. He shot back right away. Yeah, just storage. Nothing up there. You have full access to everything you need downstairs. The instant reply creeped me out a little, as if he knew I would ask. I stared at the stairs for a while, feeling weird about it, but eventually I let it go. The first night was fine. I ordered some takeout, lounged on the couch, and watched Netflix. I tried to relax. Around midnight, I went to bed. At some point, I woke up. I wasn't sure why, just this sound. A faint step from above me. I froze, listening. I heard nothing else. I told myself it was old house noises, piping, temperature changes. I tried to sleep again. Then another thud, slower, definite. It sounded like someone was shifting weight upstairs. My chest got tight. I sat up, remaining perfectly still. Hello, I called. Silence. I checked my phone, 31:12 a.m. Classic. I almost laughed at myself. This was dumb. I tried to sleep, but I barely managed it. Morning came, and honestly, everything felt normal again. Sunlight makes things less creepy. I made coffee, settled by the window, and tried to focus on work. Around lunch, I checked the Wi-Fi settings. It was just habit. That's when I saw it. 2 devices connected, my laptop and something labeled device upstairs. I stared at the list. Maybe it was a smart thermostat or something, but the name, too specific. I took a screenshot and sent it to Neil. Hey, is there another device connected to the Wi-Fi? Something called device upstairs? This time, he didn't write back right away. 5 minutes. 10. Finally. Probably just an old device. Nothing to worry about. That was it. Not even a real answer. I messaged again. Okay, but I heard footsteps last night. Are you sure no one's up there? He read it, then nothing. That night, I locked my bedroom door. I don't even know why. It wouldn't stop anyone already inside. It just made me feel less exposed. I kept the lights on late. Eventually, around 1 a.m., I climbed into bed. I woke up again at 2012 a.m. This time, the noises weren't subtle. Pacing. Slow, back and forth, right over my head. My heart was pounding. Nope, I whispered. Nope, not doing this. I grabbed my phone, about to message Neil again. Before I could hit send, the footsteps stopped. Dead silence. Then came that dragging sound. Furniture scraping on the floor right above me. Something heavy. I couldn't breathe. Hello, I said. Louder this time? Nothing. I got up. I couldn't seem to stop myself. Panic, curiosity, adrenaline, who knows? I went out to the hallway. The stairs waited, black and still. Every instinct in me wanted to run, but I climbed them anyway. The sign was still there. Upstairs is locked. But the door at the top was ajar. Light spilled through the gap. I don't remember deciding to go up. I just did. One step at a time, the air getting colder. My hand shook as I pushed the door open. The room wasn't for storage. Someone was living up there. A mattress, empty food containers, water bottles, clothes thrown around. And then I saw the photos. Dozens, spread across the floor. I picked one up. It was me, sleeping in the bed downstairs. My hands were shaking. More photos. All of me from different angles, different nights, some taken from the hallway, some from inside my room. In one photo, I saw a reflection in a window. Someone was standing behind me, watching. I dropped the photos. That's when I heard a voice, just behind me, quiet. You weren't supposed to come up here. I turned. I saw him. I don't remember running out of that house. Just barefoot, tearing through the woods until I hit the main road. I called the police. When we went back, the house was spotless. Nothing upstairs. No mattress, no photos. It was like nobody had ever been there. They told me I had probably imagined everything. Stress, lack of sleep. Before I left, I checked the Wi-Fi again. Still connected. Device upstairs. I messaged Neil, who was in that house. He replied instantly, "You weren't supposed to go upstairs." I reported the listing. It's gone now, completely wiped. But here's the part that really gets me. Last night, at home, I checked my phone. There was a new device on my Wi-Fi. I had never added it. The name? Device? Downstairs.